What's going on, everybody? You see a Jaguar back here with GenJag.com, and you know what they all say, the NFL calendar never really ends. You know, you have February where the Super Bowl occurs, then you have March where there's free agency, then you move on to April where you had the NFL draft, and now we are in May. And during May you have basically off-season kind of practices where the Jaguars have officially kicked off their first day of OTAs today. So in this video I want to kind of discuss what's going on in the OTAs and just some takeaways from day one of these OTAs. So let's get it. So for those of you who don't really know what OTAs are or necessarily what kind of off-season work goes on in the NFL, essentially every team has about 16 different off-season practices. The first three are rookie minicamp, where the rookies come in for 3 days and kind of do their thing. There's about I think 60 to anywhere between 60 to 80 players between draft picks. And then you also have undrafted free agents, and you also just have a bunch of guys in on a tryout basis. And then after that, you have 10 OTAs, which stands for Organized Team Activities. Now, what these are is they're basically just practices and helmets and like no shoulder pads. It's non-contact really kind of work, and you're just kind of going through skeleton kind of work, just going through kind of the swing of things, running through the playbook a little bit. Not getting super in depth, but still kind of testing your mental ability for the game. And these 10 practices are actually voluntary. So, if you don't show up, you're not going to be penalized in any way. Of course, the coaches still want you to show up, but it's not something that's mandatory. But what is mandatory is the final 3 days of what they call minicamp. And, these mini camps are obviously, like I said, they are mandatory. So if you don't show up, then you are subject to fines. So those are kind of your 16 off-season practices that you have. In these practices, one of the main headlines or one of the main kind of intrigues that come out of these are what players don't show up. You have players kind of around the league like Julio Jones and Aaron Donald who are not showing up because they want to hold out for some kind of contract, a new contract to be done. And the Jaguars, when you look at their team, you wonder who's not showing up, and there wind up being 2 players, and that's Jalen Ramsey and AJ Boye. Now you kind of sit here and wonder, why are they holding out? But the thing about them is that they're not holding out because of money issues. The main reason is because Jalen Ramsey, he's still on his rookie deal, and where he's at in his rookie deal, you can't offer him any kind of an extension. You have to wait, I believe, until the end of next year to really be able to adjust that. And then AJ Boye just got paid fat stacks last year, so he's definitely not looking for any kind of new contract. So it hasn't really surfaced why exactly they are holding out, but maybe or like exactly how long they will be holding out. So we'll see in the next coming days or maybe next week or something like that if they do wind up reporting, and then once they kind of interview them, we'll kind of figure out more upon the reasoning why they didn't show up. But I'm not really too concerned about AJ Boye or Jalen Ramsey showing up, because I don't think them showing up is necessarily making any of them any better. I mean, for goodness sake, they are freaking both all pros, and they both kind of sit on an island together and basically lock down any receiver that they cover. But when you look at OTAs, the kind of positions that or players that I feel like are most important to be able to show up and most vital to the team are definitely the quarterback. You got to have your starting quarterback there. They run the offense. Obviously, they have to have some chemistry with the receivers. I also feel like new players need to show up. They just need to show up to kind of build some chemistry with the team, kind of get the coaches to be able to get an eye on them in practice, kind of see what they're like. And, it's just good for them to be around the ball and then just learn the playbook and just be able to get acclimated to what their practices are like, what the coaches kind of expect of them, and what they should kind of expect once training camp comes about. And that's when things really get geared up and actually get pretty damn hard. And I also think it's important for like wide receivers or tight ends, anybody to be catching the ball. I feel like it's definitely important, just because the only time these guys are really going to be able to get practice together before training camp, is either through OTAs or if they wind up meeting up in the offseason. And it's just good for the quarterback to be able to develop some chemistry with their pass catchers, because it's a really, really underrated aspect of the whole chemistry between the quarterback and wide receiver, just because, they got to kind of know what routes these guys are going to be running. I think one thing that really hurt the Jaguars last year was the fact that our wide receivers weren't really staying healthy. So you had guys like Max McCaffrey cycling in there, Jadon Mickens and Larry Pinker, just all these different wide receivers coming in and out, and it just really hurts the kind of chemistry between the quarterback and wide receiver when you're not really whatever you're expecting them to kind of run. I don't really think it's all that important for necessarily wide or like offensive line and defensive line to really be there, just because it's not really much practice. You're kind of just going through emotions. You're not going through hard one-on-ones. But when it comes to the most important part of the defense, I would say for the linebackers to be there, just because, you have your middle linebackers like, Miles Jack, who basically gets everybody together. The middle linebacker is essentially the quarterback of the defense. So, they got to be in there to start barking out calls to different players just to kind of line them up. They're going to be playing with obviously some new players out there. So, with a defense for us, we're going to have, basically 3 new quarterbacks in there right now with AJ Boye and Jalen Ramsey not being there. You're going to have guys filling in, so they got to make sure they're kind of in position. And it's just good for, I feel like, the linebackers to be there. But yeah, there wasn't too much news today. The people that had media availability were Doug Marrone, Blake Bortles, and Blake Bortles' quarterback coach. So, they all kind of spoke. I guess Blake Bortles was kind of the main attraction today, just seeing, how he's been doing this offseason. It hasn't been a very quiet offseason for him. He got the new contract. Obviously, he's been in talks all throughout the offseason when it comes to national media, with people pegging the Jaguars to sign a big money quarterback or draft a quarterback in the first round, just trying to replace him. And then obviously, like last week, somebody tried to steal Blake Bortles' truck. So, they were just kind of having media availability with that and just kind of talking about that as things kind of start to get geared up and OTAs get underway. So day 1 is in the books, 9 more days to go, plus 3 days of mini camp. So, if anything interesting happens, I'll definitely come at you guys with some kind of video. But that's pretty much all I got right now. Thank you guys for watching the video. This is You See a Jaguar with JinJag.com. Like the video if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel, and we out.